So,
Hi, everyone. Hello, hello.
hey, Danielle.
I am so excited. This is like very surreal for me because you're always in my comment section and now you're in front of me.
Believe me, I don't know if the timing is what it is, but it seems like when your video comes out, I just happen to be on a break at the office or whatever. And I feel a little bit awkward that I'm like the first one to comment sometimes, but hey, I'm going to go with it.
We love it. I appreciate the support. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll give everyone a couple minutes to jump on. You can let us know in the chat how you're doing, maybe what your beverage of choice is. I got my classic sparkling water as always. And we'll get into it. We have some
I have
exciting
water.
stuff planned. He's got water. We love it. I got that too. Never enough liquids. My desk is always full of just like an array of beverages at all times. So
Hey, shout out to all of the reaction therapy people that I kind of begged to be here tonight because I get scared. And I said, just, excuse me, I said, don't just leave me here alone tonight. Come support. And they're here. So thank you, y'all.
yeah, because you were live a few hours ago, weren't you?
Yes, we did a live stream today for a special tier on our YouTube membership, and we do reactions for them. And so we were on there for a couple hours, and now we're back on again.
Love it. The grind never stops, people. So we have some fun stuff planned for this evening for those of you that are tuning in. We got a little bit of reaction planned, some Q&A. We're going to give you watching the opportunity to ask your questions as well. I'm really excited. So
When you
get
say
ready.
reactions, Danielle, be careful because all of our family will be typing in songs any second.
Okay, no music reactions. Disclaimer, we're not reacting to any music today. Life coaches only. I guess this would be a good opportunity. We should probably introduce ourselves. So you can introduce yourself first and then I'll introduce myself and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'm Tom Stevens. I am a part of reaction therapy here on YouTube. So if you haven't seen us before, go check it out and subscribe. We react to music and we do it from a mental health perspective. So our mission is always spreading mental health awareness to the world through music and lyrics. And we also do, we have a second channel called Reaction Therapy Unplugged. Go check that out. That's like behind the scenes stuff of games and entertainment stuff we do. That's kind of just me and Nick and Tony. Nick is my son who runs the channel every day, and Tony is my second son who's off to college, and he does kind of the producing and directing of the special RT Unplugged stuff. So we react to music. We've been doing it almost 2 years. December will be 2 years. We have 266, I think, 1,000 subscribers, and very fortunate and have had a lot of fun doing it. I'm a psychotherapist by trade. I've been in the mental health field for almost 30 years. Since 1995, I started. And my wife, Jill, is also a therapist. We have a practice together here in Houston, Texas. And we have 2 other therapists in our office with us and our amazing office manager assistant, Jackie, who's incredible at what she does. So we are a day-to-day operation. Danielle, people ask all the time, you're not really a real therapist. You just say you are on YouTube and you just act like it. And it's like, I really have clients. I did it all day today before I came here, and I work for
Google
a
me.
living. Yes, Google me. Believe me, I'm there. So I'm a
I
therapist.
love it.
Just a quick background. I started specializing in children. Jill and I did early on in our practice as young as 2 years old. So we've done a lot of work with children, and we've kind of morphed over the years. Jill does a lot of work with women and grief issues. She does a lot with grief. I do a lot with couples and marriage, and also parenting stuff, and also higher level athletes that I work with who are trying to overcome injury or peak performance stuff. So we do a lot of different things. And when you do something 30 years, I guess that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And I appreciate you for taking time out of your schedule to come here and hang out with us. So
You've inspired me. I mean, I love what you put out on YouTube. I believe it. And I'm like, finally, somebody's talking about this, because I have examples of really good life coaching and I have examples of really bad. And I think it's really cool to bring up things the way you do in such a nice way, honest way about what people might get themselves trapped into. So thank you.
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty good segue. Hello, hello. If you don't know me, I'm Danielle. I'm a troll that talks on the internet about problematic things that happen in the coaching industry. For context, I've been an entrepreneur since 2018. I started my first business, kind of just like quit my job, opened a yoga business. That was a whole whirlwind in itself. And through that time, I sort of dabbled a little bit in life coaching, if you will, and came to see some somewhat problematic things start to surface. And so I primarily make content here on YouTube that discusses some of the rhetoric and things that we see going on in the coaching industry. I do reaction content related to coaching, deep dives about problematic behaviors in the industry and that sort of thing. So I thought it would be interesting. Actually, this was Tom's idea. I'm not going to take credit for it. We thought it would be interesting to sit down and have a conversation openly about his perspective as someone who is a licensed mental health professional on some of the stuff that goes on in the coaching industry, specifically around people overstepping boundaries and that kind of thing. So this isn't a conversation where we're just going to like speak poorly of everyone who identifies as a life coach. That's not really what we're about, but more so just have an open and honest conversation about things to look out for, what's, you know, good or not good. And
And
I think it'll
also,
be pretty interesting.
it's pretty cool between the two of us because being in the mental health field, you having been entrenched in the coaching industry, we have good perspective on both sides to be able to talk about what to look out for. And I think it's a great chance for people to ask questions that they might not get to ask of somebody who's been in the coaching industry, or things to look out for that you might be scammed or trapped into, or on my side about the mental health field. A lot of people don't know the difference between a therapist, a psychologist, and a psychiatrist, and what do we do with medication or not. There's just a lot of questions that if you're going to see even a mental health professional, trust me, Danielle, there's just as much weird stuff that happens in that field, in our field, as you talk about with coaching.
Well, and that's what I always tell people too, because a lot of the times it comes up in my comments of like, well, I went to a therapist and it was horrible. So now I go to a life coach. And it's like any profession you're in, whether you're hiring a life coach, a therapist, a doctor for that matter, like you're not guaranteed to meet the first one and fall in love with them. So it's like any relationship, you got to kind of put in the effort, the trial and error, and find
So
someone you
true.
click with. So super important.
So true.
Full transparency to those of you watching, I do have some notes, so I just want to make sure that we are focused and ready to go. If I think we probably have a pretty good crowd here. It looks like everyone's sort of trickling in, so we can kind of just jump in. I
Mhm.
figured it might be interesting if we kind of alternate between questions and reactions, and just kind of get right into the conversation if that works for you.
Yeah, you're gonna go back and forth. Like I just looked down and it's like, oh, they're dropping Juice World's last album on September 20th. Danielle, you're gonna see
Here
some.
it is.
Y'all, I love y'all. Thank you for loving music. Hey, Jackie's
Okay.
in here. So Jackie Duke is my assistant. She runs our office. She is incredible. And
Oh, she was
yeah,
the one that said you do have clients.
she's the one that says, I'm trying to find space for people right now. So they are there. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, Jackie's the one that's from Canada. So that's why I was asking you about
Oh,
where you're from.
fun. Yeah, I love that. Represent. I feel like most of my
Yeah.
followers are American, so and they like to make fun of my accent, so it is what it is. Okay, so we kind of went over question one. It was just basically for you to introduce yourself. But I guess we can sort of jump into what we were just discussing. And I'd be interested if we could kind of start this conversation with you sharing your perspective on, I guess, what you see the difference as between someone looking for a coaching relationship, someone looking for a therapeutic relationship. What are the differences, key differences between coaching and therapy?
That is a pretty good way to look at things. It's like, what are you looking for? It's like taking your car in, right? For repair. What exactly do you want? And whether it's a coach or a therapist. And a lot of people don't know. And I mean, coaching was not very much around when I started doing what I do. Like it was, I mean, it had been introduced, but it was not prevalent. Life coaching was not a big thing in the 90s. But as it's come about, I think what's happened is it's made it easier for people to get so-called certified or appear credentialed to do things that they might not have a whole lot of experience in. Like, for instance, just because I take a workshop on hypnosis doesn't mean I'm now trained and qualified to do hypnosis with people. I actually did that, by the way. I took a life about 7, 8 years ago. I took a life coaching course on hypnosis because I thought I want to just see what it's like. And it was cool and it was fun, but I would not go to my clients and start doing it. So when you're looking into the industry, it's like, do you want therapy? Do you want guidance, like with where you're going? Do you want support? Do you want encouragement? And to me, the mental health field is the best way to get the most professional opinion from somebody who's had the experience, the education, and the kind of training in life to know how to steer you, whether you need therapy. Like, therapy is diving into the past. Not everybody needs that. I talk about coaching all the time with people that come in my office. Maybe you don't need a bunch of therapy. Maybe you need to just kind of sort a few things out and like rework things in your life, which is semi in the coaching. But that's how I can know what people need. A lot of times with life coaches, they take on more than this is my opinion. This is my opinion. I think they take on more expertise and more challenging people than they think all the time, and they play can tend to play on emotions of people uh, that are vulnerable and they don't know what they're getting into. And so a therapist to me is always a good start. If they're normal, like there's not all therapists aren't normal, like, but if they're normal, and people have said to me since reaction therapy with Nick and I doing this, that you've changed my view of therapy. I used to hate it and think it was terrible, but now listening to you, I know there's normal out there for me to go see. And with life coaching, I think it should be more guidance, more support, more encouragement, and less, I'm going to make your life amazing. Because I don't tell people
Yeah,
that when they come in my office. I say, what is it you'd like to work on? And how would you like your life to be a year from now that it's not today? And let's see if we can get there. But life coaching to me gets this picture of like, if you'll sign up for this, and that's why therapy is one contract at a time, it's a week at a time. Like, you can leave at any point.
exactly.
But
Not
I
6
feel like,
months and your whole life will be transformed.
right. Too much promising. And part of that we can't do, Danielle, because of our licensing, our credentialing, and our ethics. Like, we can be sued, we can lose our license, and then we can't practice the same as we can. So we are held to a different standard with that I think coaches aren't.
Yeah, I think that's part of the issue too, is the lack of regulation, obviously, in the coaching industry as a whole. So it's really just, I always refer to it as the Wild West because anything goes, anyone can get away with anything. Even if you get like wronged by a coach, the process of taking that to court or something wouldn't be worth the amount of effort that would be required for anything to come of it. So these
Right.
people often get away with things that are questionable at best, in my opinion.
Well, and I do know good coaches. Like, I have a great friend here in Houston that's I've told you, but is a divorce coach. She has a radio show that's, syndicated all around, and it's the Divorce Coaching Hour. Her name's Christy Mendelo. She's awesome, and she reached out to me once saying, "I have a client I need you to see because she needs help that I can't offer her. I'm here." And she was so cool because she said, "I help people going through a divorce, who have been through a divorce, or are thinking about it, find attorneys, find people who are real estate agents, find therapists, find." She was really good. Like, I help them go in the direction they need to go to help their life feel supported and help them move forward, not to try to transform their mental and emotional well-being, because she knows what she doesn't know. She's very skilled at knowing, I'm going to stay in contact with good attorneys, good therapists, good people that I can help send them to. And to me, that's what more coaching is. It's supposed to be, I'm going to help you find a path through other resources to get to where you want to go. But
Excellent.
I don't think it's sold that way. It's more like a contractor. Like, I would want them to be more like a contractor. I'm gonna help find the people, parts, and places that you need to be happier and better off in life. And I hear too many coaches just talk about how amazing life is, and if your mindset's great, you're gonna be awesome and you're gonna be successful. And trust me, those people are not as successful as you think looking at them on the screen. Their picture on Instagram or their video that they put out doesn't mean they're doing that great.
100%. And I think a lot of the stuff in the space is often kind of what you're alluding to, oversimplified in like,
Mhm.
oh, if you place like are facing problem ABC, the solution is X. Like just decide that ABC isn't a problem anymore, like It makes me like shake my head most of the time. I think this is interesting though. So this actually everything you're saying right now, I think will fit really well with one of the videos I want to show you because I watched this video and my jaw literally dropped. I was like, this person identifies for context as a shadow work coach, which those of you who aren't familiar with my channel, shadow work is what many coaches call essentially like trauma work, which they evidently are not qualified to be working with, in my opinion. Trauma is obviously, and you can speak to this better than I can, but a very complex phenomenon that requires extensive amounts of education in terms of how to help people work through trauma. And so I always find it to be incredibly unsettling when people identify as these like shadow workers that are going to help people work through their trauma with a 2-day online certification that they got over the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Scary.
So I'm interested to see what you think of this video. So I'll pop it up on the screen
Okay.
and you can let me know what you think.
Okay.
Okay, let's go like this.
I'm going to ask you what I call a shadow question. Why are you unwanted? I'm not saying you are, but see if a part of you shoots up an answer. Why are you unwanted? Why are you not good enough? Why are you not like everyone else? What's different about you?
Defect.
How so? What comes up?
Yeah, well, otherwise people would have loved me more or at all.
When did you stop loving yourself?
I'm not sure I started
Why haven't you started?
because I'm not perfect.
Okay, that's it. That's the end of the video.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that being the end. First of all, I want people to understand when they see something like this guy's completely unqualified and untrained, and you can tell just by what he's saying. You know, we steer very clear in the mental health field of why questions, and we also steer very clear of trapping people. So he was setting her up. It was a setup question because the only answer she could give was a negative connotation of herself. And in the mental health field, we deal with lots of dark stuff, lots of shadow stuff. Jill and I have a lot of training in trauma. We talk about EMDR all the time, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, that we do with people who have been through all kinds of different experiences. And it is scientifically proven and the best research thing in the field. And when somebody stands there, and the interesting thing is you watch that video and you see this guy, his presentation, it looked like his arms were crossed and he was taller than her, looking down on her. And that was very parental. And if somebody's ever been abused, put in a bad situation, that can really be triggering to that person. And she almost looked like, we talk about fight, flight, or freeze, right? And trauma. She was almost in the freeze state where it's like she didn't know what to say. And if I was her, I'd feel really stupid right there because it's like I don't know what answer to give. And what did this get set up some other way? But he was asking very poor questions instead of saying, tell me about where you've been and what relationships have been like for you. And what relationships have really meant a lot and what relationships have you struggled with, and you work your way into it. Long story short, wow, the whole body language, the tone, and the questioning, Danielle, that was horrible.
And I think too, the piece, this was coming up a lot in the comments on that video, was like, you're essentially setting this woman up to unearth things that you clearly don't have the tools to help her process. So then after the video camera turns off, what, does she just go home and deal with all of those feelings? Like, it's so dangerous for this to be presented online as like the way to do things. And then you're just like, oh my God, I was just shaking my head.
That's a great point. What happens next? What do you do with that? If you do unearth anything, what do you do with it to help this person? Because if they're exposed and vulnerable, bad things happen when they go home.
100%.
Mm.
And so actually, I'm going to pull up one of the questions here from the chat. So someone's
Mhm.
asking, are life coaches known more for self-improvement, where therapy is more about connecting clients to resources to help overcome their struggles? What are your thoughts on that?
Life for me, this is my definition. Life coaching should be more support, encouragement, direction, helping. It's kind of a watered down version of. I'm making this really light, but a watered down version of what I would do, which means a resource to be able to help people identify the areas they want to improve in, or the areas they've struggled in, and how they can actually uh, find places, people, and situations that will help them get there, so they can be direction people without going backwards. Too many of these life coaches here start diving into, like he did, backwards stuff, which is their past, which is the darkness. Therapy is honestly meant to go backwards. So the idea of mental health field and therapy is we look at the past and the patterns that have happened in the past and how those have equaled today, like what you've been through and the relationships you have and situations you've been through equal today. They've made you out to where you are today. And I'm more psychodynamic with my theory, but that is basically saying, because you're here today, where would you want to be that you're not? And how can we actually readjust patterns so that they don't just keep recycling? Change the patterns so that you can have different outcome in the future. But you've got to know that's tied to relationships, that's tied to past experience, any potential trauma or struggle in the past, or negative experiences. Coaching to me should not go deep into any of that. It should be more support, encouragement, and touching on guidance to find resources. Like, I think therapy might really be helpful for you, or to look at different types of uh, training or social situations that would help you become stronger in this area. I just don't think they need to touch the mental health field.
Okay, so then I'd be curious to hear what your response is to, I get this either a lot in my comments or it comes up in a lot of the videos that I react to. So I'm sure you've seen it. But it's this idea that a lot of coaches will spread this narrative that therapy only deals with the past, coaching is about moving forward. Therefore, if you want to, set goals and achieve things in your life, you should work with a life coach. What is your response to that?
That's completely false, because all you're gonna do is repeat patterns. Like, people who come into my office, the reason they've, struggled in relationships, or struggled at work, or being successful, or struggle with self-esteem and self-confidence, is because of all of the things that have happened in the past. And these core beliefs get embedded in our brain that tell us, like he was doing there, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it, I don't deserve whatever. They're core beliefs. Until those change, you're not going to change your life. So just white knuckling and saying, it's like somebody going to quit drinking alcohol, and instead of going to improve their character and their life through a 12-step program, they just say, every day, I'm just not going to drink. I'm just not going to drink. And they become a dry drunk, and they have the same behavior, but they don't get better because they didn't learn how to change their inside. So therapy is trained to look at the past. So people need to understand that. Life coaching, pigeonholing that way therapy to the past. No, we're just very well trained to do that. We can go back into the past and do it the right way, resort why everything happened the way it did, and then say, now, in order for the future to be better, you have to be able to see your relationships differently. And the thing that's hard to do is, if you just don't look backwards and you only look forwards, you're going to keep running into relationships and people and situations that trigger you back to the old relationships. And so life coaches are saying, just think positive, just be confident, just own it. But they're going to come across people that are triggering their old insecurities and their vulnerabilities. So that's why therapy goes back to clean up and then moves forward.
Makes sense. Thank you for that. I think that that's like the number one thing that is often misunderstood. So I just felt that it was important that we address it because it does come up a
Remember,
lot.
there's a big difference between reflecting and dwelling. I tell people all the time, you don't want to dwell in the past. You really don't want to bathe in it and sit there and be in misery. It's not good. The best way to heal depression is through activity and through movement and through action. You don't sit I always tell people, don't curl up in a ball in a dark room looking at social media when you're down and sad and depressed, because it will exacerbate it and grow it. So you have to be able to uh, activate, and you have to be able to have some positive movement forward. but you don't want to dwell in the past. You want to reflect on the past, like a bookshelf on the wall. Like I can see the books on there, but I don't have to sit and read them all. I just know they're there. And a therapist can help you when they're good. And believe me, therapy gets a bad rap. You don't have to sign a lifetime contract. You honestly don't. I know people I've known for 20 years in the work I do. I know a girl that I met when she was 3 and now she's 27. And we've talked maybe once a year at times. She'll call like, hey, but it's like an ongoing relationship where you have that person when you need them. But therapy is meant to have a safe place outside of your bubble to trust somebody to lead you through things, not just to tell you how to think. I do not tell people how to think.
Impartial too. Like you're not getting, when I go to whatever, my friends, my family, people that know me and I tell them my problems, they're obviously biased in the opinions they give me. So I think therapy can also provide that sort of like third party neutral perspective that can help you work through some of that stuff
Yeah,
too.
and I feel like life coaching, when I watch these videos you put out, they're too personal. They get too personal with people.
No boundaries.
No, there you go.
Yeah, it often reminds me of like, so I did a brief stint working in mental health, and I had a few clients that would try and like pursue friendly relationships after they left the program. And I'm like, we cannot talk outside of a clinical context. I'm sorry, but this is not the place.
Right.
Boundaries,
Boundaries are big.
for
They don't
sure.
train life coaches well enough on boundaries because honestly, I have no judgment on who they are as people because I don't know them, but you gotta know where your line is drawn. And you can't just be a buddy to the people you work with, and you can't just be friends. They're vulnerable. This is an up-down relationship, and you have to be able to take that seriously.
Again, it comes back to that video we watched where he's up here, she's down there, and like,
Look at the body language on that. When you show that and listen to the tone of voice, it's horrible. The position it puts her in and can very likely traumatize her. But like you said, what are you going to do if he's a horrible life coach? You can't just, there's no regulation. You can't do anything.
exactly. So Emery in the comments here is asking if we are interested in finding a good life coach, how do we go about finding one?
Well, first thing I would probably do, aside from asking somebody like you, is I would ask therapists. I would contact therapists. Look, people don't understand, like, anybody could call me or call my office and, I'll give 5 to 10 minutes on a phone to anybody. If they're like, "I just have a question. I don't know what to do or where to go. I live in Canada, so I can't really see you, but I like what you do on YouTube, and can you give me a few bits of" Yeah, sure. So look up, find somebody, and if they're weird, hang up and call somebody else. But when you get somebody that either online you look at through Psychology Today, we do here in the States, to find somebody in your area, find a therapist and ask them if they know of life coaches. Cause like there's some I know that know others that are really good, and they tend to stay together and they can help link you around. But I would be very careful about just Googling and then taking the first
Hmm.
person, which is a sponsored ad or somebody who has gotten themselves to the top of the search engine, and they may not be completely qualified. I just want to know um, what they're really wanting first. So personally, I'd go to a therapist and I'd say, I don't know that I need therapy, but I'm interested in like different life and maybe life coaching. So do you know of any in your area that might do this, or anybody that's online? It's like I would
And
share.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And what would you say? Yeah. What would you say if people really wanted to find a life coach?
Yeah, I think that from at least my like anecdotal experience, evidence that I've gathered, I would say the most like legitimate coaches are the ones that aren't advertising themselves online, honestly, because most of the online coaching is very much like we were talking about earlier, these over the top grandiose promises of how transformational your life is going to be. Whereas people I know in the real world that have life coaching practices and are actual life coaches who make their living through coaching clients, not through coaching other
Mhm.
coaches, none of them like have barely even a website. It's like they get their clients through referrals from other clients, referrals from mental health professionals, that kind of thing, and sort of fell into coaching along the way, but it's never these like excellently perfectly polished marketing on Instagram,
Mhm.
TikTok, wherever sort of coaches, in my experience anyway. So I think the advice you shared makes total sense.
And maybe it's finding a life coach that sees clients kinda like I do, 1 session at a time instead of a package deal or a program. Like, do you meet with clients one-on-one? And do you help me find a path or a plan to get where I wanna go a session at a time? And, uh, I think that would be better.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, is like anyone that's trying to sell you on this sign up for my 6-month program and that's going to be the secret to helping you figure out your life, immediate red flag.
Mhm. Yeah.
I can see, like maybe a couple weeks, sign up for this like 3-week package or something. We'll meet once a week for 3 weeks. But anything beyond like a month, I'm like, that seems a little bit sketchy because I just, from my experience, my opinion, I just don't think it's necessary. And again, if we think of it from like a therapeutic context, I've never had to sign up with my therapist for 6 months at a time. We go based on, how I'm doing week to week. So
Well, and also, we've had Jill and I have done, marriage kind of intensive, say, over a weekend in the past. We don't do them anymore really, but marriage intensive, or I've done parenting workshops where I take, like, 8 couples in and work with them. Those are different. Like, it's a 4-week program that's you have the outline for it, the specifics of what you're gonna learn about parenting and handling raising children or couples, how you're gonna learn to communicate and have boundaries. Like, it's very clear what the objective is. I don't wanna just be sold on how I'm gonna feel at the end of it. I wanna know specifically what I'm gonna get. So I would always search around, and I would ask to talk to the person you think looks good on the phone. And I tell people in the mental health field, I don't have to get clients. I'm very blessed. Like, Jackie has plenty of work that she's doing for me, and Jill. But I will spend time on the phone. Like, I can't spend an hour with you on the phone, but I'll take a few minutes to talk to people. And if you run into somebody that doesn't want to talk to you, like, no, you gotta pay to see me or whatever, I just don't go near it.
and if you run into a coach that is offering you a free discovery call, run because that's a sales
Is that
call in
bad?
disguise. So it can go either
Discovery
way.
call?
Someone asked me that, like, "What is a discovery call?" I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. Discovery call is a fancy word for sales call where they're gonna pitch you this 6-month program I was talking about." So oh my goodness. Okay, actually, so this kind of ties into this question here. Someone is asking, are there restrictions around marketing of therapeutic or therapist services? I'm wondering if this is the reason why life coach marketing is eclipsing therapy and attracting more people.
Yeah,
So
probably.
do you have ethical standards you have to abide by when it comes to how you market your services?
Yeah, man, and let me tell you, the advent of technology has changed everything. We used to could not we used to have total restrictions, like, we couldn't put anything out. We could not put a testimonial of anybody out at all because it was ethically right. They wouldn't even let us put a testimonial of people like you, Danielle, if you were seeing me in therapy. I couldn't even put your testimonial out without your name, like, just blank. Like, they wouldn't let us do that back in the early 2000s. Well, now with social media, it's a little bit different, and we are restricted in the sense that we can't put any false information out there. We also can't promise things that we're not trained to do. So, there's not like there's police coming to get us, but if somebody sees something and
And
I say
reports
that
it?
yeah, that's where you can get in trouble with the state. In the United States, at least, boards regulate us. And so if they get a report, then you get investigated and your license could be taken. You could be suspended. You could be in big trouble. And so we are regulated a little more, but I think that's exactly true. That's why life coaches are out there so much more because therapists don't tend to advertise that way.
I also had someone, I think this was in my comments the other day, someone had mentioned the idea, not just around the marketing side of things, but even sort of what we've already been talking about, the idea of like ethical boundaries and that kind of thing, non-existent in the coaching space. So if you're a therapist that's having to operate under specific standards and you don't like that, then a good option for you, I guess, could be to just transition into life coaching where you get to do whatever you want.
Well, I tell you, I've thought about it. I've told my wife for the past couple years, it's very expensive to keep our licenses. We have licenses, we have specializations like we do with trauma or with play therapy with children, and all of these things add up every year with CEU ethics training, CEU training, and license bills that can be thousands of dollars a year just to keep the credential. And I've thought about it, like, why don't I mean, I could life coach at this point, even though I say things I do about life coaching. I think there's many people I coach today, even though I'm a therapist. There's many people I don't do therapy with because I tell them this isn't a therapy situation, but I do know how to work with you. So I do think therapists are more qualified to coach than coaches are for
Hmm.
sure to do therapy.
Yeah. The transition is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just pulling up. There was one question that came through on Instagram earlier today, and I think that this ties well into the conversation. So, this individual is asking if you have any advice for current or former coaches that are unpacking their relationship with the coaching industry.
Yeah, kinda like is it the PTSD or is it the is it the
Yeah.
fallout of having been through all of that?
It's like almost like when you're leaving a cult or a religious practice, and then you start to unravel all of these things of like, what did I just do to myself?
You say that, but that's very, very accurate, Danielle. Like, what a great way to say that, because it can almost necessitate people needing some therapy to piece together what just happened and what I went through, because part of it's vulnerability, right? And you can feel taken advantage of. You can feel wrapped almost like a toxic relationship you get in, where it's like I have been gaslit and messed around with for so long and drank the Kool-Aid at one point and then thought this and then was one. It's like a toxic relationship. So that's the same kind of unpacking that you have to sit with. And part of that can be done with either therapy or not even therapy, like doing it, just a therapist that could kind of coach you through it, or other people who have been through the same experience. To me, the easiest way is to look at what you went through that you wouldn't do if you had it to do over again. Like, in other words, what would you stay away from if you did it over again? And realize that a lot of that was not you. I know there are choices that we make and we get caught in things sometimes, but a lot of times when we look at life and we say, I would not even come close to doing that again, it's because we got taken advantage of or there was a vulnerability and we beat ourselves up for it. And I want people to get out of this industry and say, part of this is on me for choices I've made, but part of it is not on me. Like, I was taken advantage of and I was put in a situation that was very difficult to set boundaries with and deal with. It. If I was today, I would be very clear on what I would or would not do. And so that's the encouraging piece, at least I do as a therapist, to say, hey, hang on a minute. This isn't all on you. And you got to understand you got out of this. You survived this. And there are a lot of things you learned. And I tell people when they break up in relationships, like, even though it's horrible you just broke up or got out of this, take the parts that really were good, or you learned more about yourself, or you realized what you love, and carry that with you. Don't just throw everything away. Take the parts out of the coaching industry that you learned or made you a stronger person, even, and carry that into the next field or whatever you do.
Exactly. And I appreciate you for saying that, because as someone who kind of went through this experience a few years ago, there was almost this like dissociation between who I am now and who that person was, 5 years ago. And so like now I make jokes about it and I make fun of myself and like read my old Instagram posts and I'm like, who even is this person saying these things? But there is like a period of time where you're kind of asking yourself like, do I still believe this stuff? Don't I? Like, because especially when you are a coach and you kind of like create your whole identity around being this, positive person that's like helping people improve their lives or whatever, it's really hard to kind of detach yourself from that identity that you've created, right? And so allowing yourself, I think, the time and space to really reflect on how you ended up there in the first
Mhm.
place. Again, if we come back to, the vulnerable position a lot of people find themselves in when they find the coaching industry, and how that makes it really easy to be taken advantage of and to like find something to hold on to. And then just recognizing, how much you've grown as a person in the time from joining the coaching industry, deciding to leave, what's my new identity, working through all of that. So it's very multifaceted. And I think from an external perspective, it can seem kind of silly. Like, why is it such a big deal? But again, because your identity is so heavily ingrained in who you are as a coach, I think that there is a lot of work to be done there in terms of like really processing the entire experience, if that makes
But
sense.
it's kinda like we said about the toxic relationship, you get in one for years or whatever, and you get out of it, and it's like, there's shame that goes with it, there's disappointment or grief
Exactly.
that goes with it, and it's like, that was my identity, and now I've gotta step out of that, and I'm not, like, carrying this big trophy with me of say, "Look at what I just did, and it was awesome, and I won 1st place." It's really like, "No, that was all that time, and what do I have to show the world from that time?" And you have to almost regroup a little bit and say, "I can't let that past identify myself." And look at what you've done with it, because you doing what you're doing is taking everything you've been through and using it in a positive way. And I really believe that through all traumatic, tragic, sad things, there is a piece of positive that can come out of it. And we have to look for it. And I think you found that just in creating content that helps people also feel supported and not crazy. And maybe you're going to help people get out of this sooner than they would have.
I've actually that's been the most rewarding piece, I think, for me, besides just being a hater troll on the internet that just is so negative and hates everyone, is the messages that I get on Instagram through email of people being like, Danielle, like you are the reason I canceled this, $5,000 membership I was paying for, or you stopped me from signing up for this program. I was this close. And then I realized like what was going on. So
Uh-huh.
really it's like everything I do now, and again, this is kind of back to the piece you were just speaking on of like, what would you do going back 5 years, knowing what you know now? Is like, if I can help the person who I was 5 years ago stop them from signing up for whatever this golden promise is, then that's enough for me, enough satisfaction to know that I've made a difference in someone else's life that I could have
Mhm.
used, 5 years ago. And that's not to say
Exactly.
like I don't regret anything that I experienced, anything that I did to other people when I was a coach, like I don't think I ever really crossed those ethical boundaries, but
Mhm.
there's always a lesson to be learned that I can then pass on to someone else. And I don't know, maybe that's just me like pseudo being a coach while I rag on other coaches, but I'm like, I'm
What
just trying to help, okay?
Yeah, I know. What do you think this may be too personal, but I'm just curious. What is the most regrettable piece of you getting into that whole industry thing? For you, like just you, not everybody, but just what you went through because that's a lot that you've talked about going through. And you may not want to answer, but I just flashed into my head like what is the most regrettable piece of like this was kind of a pivotal thing that kind of turned the tide that I really didn't want or wouldn't have wanted this to happen or wouldn't want anybody else to go through that.
Yeah, I don't really know if there's like a specific moment. And it's funny you ask this. So I did a podcast interview a couple weeks ago, and I think the individual who like asked to interview me misunderstood what kind of content I make and thought that like I was still a life coach. So they were trying to like portray me as a scammer in this interview they were doing. And I was like, dude, I'm on your side. Anyway, they're asking me like, so who did you take advantage of? And like, what's the like spiciest story you have? And I'm like, genuinely, the people that I worked with, I only ever had like maybe a couple handfuls of clients over the few years that I did coaching because I was also a yoga teacher at that time. And so again, like all of my clients, I never charged these like, $5,000, $10,000 price tags on any of my programs. I think I was pretty reasonable in terms of like the pricing side of things. And all of my clients genuinely felt like I was helping them. Like they had positive things happen in their life as a result of us working together. But again, I think for me, it was really like looking back on it, it's really just this idea of like boundaries of not knowing like some of these people probably should have just been in therapy. And instead I was this like 27-year-old giving them life advice, like stuff like that, where I'm like, oh, like there's a difference between like being a positive person and helping people feel good by sharing a positive message versus like
Yeah.
giving people life advice when you're absolutely not qualified to be doing so. But again, it just comes with the like naivety of like, well, that girl's doing it, so I should be able to do it too. And so I think that's kind of the biggest piece that I had to grapple with coming out of it was like, again, if I read back on like posts that I made, I'm like, who is this person? And obviously I was just like seeing other people doing it and thinking that it was okay to do it. But now I'm like, ooh, like this is
Yeah.
giving gaslighty, not good vibes.
I know. I think my answer for you, like all the videos I've watched of you, because I feel like I've watched a lot of your videos, and I think my answer for you of the most regrettable piece is probably not seeing it sooner, knowing
Yeah,
how smart you are and how on top of it you are and how much ingenuity you have, like just hearing you, not catching this, when I feel like I should have kind of thing, because you really are on the ball with it. And so that really shows how powerful that whole thing is.
100%. And it's funny you mentioned that piece because I like now that I'm on the outside, I obviously see a lot of the parallels between like the coaching industry and MLMs. And I remember back to when I was in my 9 to 5 job still, I hadn't started my coaching business. And a girl I worked with had approached me to like join her MLM. And immediately I was like, this is a pyramid scheme. I'm absolutely not doing this. Like, red flag, red flag. 6 months later, I get approached by this like coach, and I'm like, oh, coaching though, that sounds like a great idea. So like,
Mhm.
I didn't see the similarities then, but now I'm just like, Danielle, what were you doing?
Yep.
And I joke
Mhm.
now with friends of mine of like, why didn't you guys tell me what I was doing? Like, somebody, you aren't my friends.
It's a lot like I mean, I know I keep saying toxic relationship, but it's a lot of, your friends could see you going through that too and be like, I mean, yeah, we kind of saw it, but it's kind of wasn't our business or it wasn't something we felt like so it's really important to have outside. That's why I think therapy is good. Not like all the time therapy for people all the time. It doesn't mean that. It's just a go-to person to say, I'm on the right track with where I'm heading and what my goals are and where I want to be. And instead of just being, good therapists, by the way, are very honest. They'll tell you what you don't want to hear. Like they'll be honest with you and they'll support you, encourage you, but they'll tell you the truth about what they see, not who you are. But I equate it to a mirror. I hold up a mirror in front of you and say, this is what I see in Danielle. And this is who I see compared to 2 months ago when I started seeing you. And this is where I think, you know, you're talking about going. So therapists will tell you what they see. They won't just blow smoke.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like they have the wherewithal and the understanding to kind of be able to observe those things where in my experience with coaching, a lot of the times it's just like me projecting my personal experience onto you. I'm not necessarily actually paying attention to what's going on in your
Hmm.
life.
Yeah.
Okay, for context, MLM is multi-level marketing, direct sales, network marketing, etc. If you search the term multi-level marketing here on YouTube, you will find a plethora of content from my friends on the internet who talk about that more specifically. But it's basically a pyramid scheme, in my opinion.
Hmm.
That's a story for another day, another live
Hmm.
video.
But
Okay.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the number of people today that do therapy is enormously bigger than the number 5 years ago. And I think COVID had part to do with that. But there is a lot more therapy out there, and therapy has been watered down. I know I'm not people don't like me for saying this in my field about my people, but with COVID and everything that happened with everything going online, we've put out, I think, a lot of therapists who are unqualified, untrained, uneducated, and to what they need to be. And it's watered down our field with a lot of people doing what I do, and a lot of it virtually sometimes, which is not it is not the premier way to do it if you're going deep with anything. It can be if it's like, hey, I want to just learn some skills about, you know, relationship and communication and parenting or whatever, but not for deep, not shadow work or not trauma, but still, I think we have so many therapists out there and there's so many people doing therapy that, you know what, honestly, Danielle, people don't even know what therapy is a lot. They just kind of go and figure everybody's the same. Oh, well, it's like a doctor, right? Well, every doctor is the same, but no, they're not. Like, we take special care, and like, you should not see a therapist that's just there for money. Like, I know it's expensive to see me. I get that. But part of that's the experience we have and the training we have and that we've been around. But also we don't see all the people that call our office. We try to take a limited number of people that I can always remember who you are, where you've been, who's in your family, what your story is. And I don't see 40 plus people in a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, because I would not be mentally fit. But there's a lot of therapists that, just churn the machine and people aren't getting the care they need. So I want to empower people to say, you're the customer. If you don't like what you're getting in therapy, you need to say it. Like, I don't think I'm getting what I need, or I feel like I need something else. And a lot of people don't advocate for themselves.
Well, and again, therapy is just like any other relationship. So if it's not working, like there are other fish in the sea, for lack of a
Yeah.
better term.
Same as coaching, right? If you don't feel like you're getting what you want, ask other people, like, what do you think about this? But a lot of people don't ask people they trust, that they love. Like, here's what they're saying. They want me to take this $7,000 course to do that. Ask 3 other people that love you and see what they say.
Exactly. Okay, so Hillary here in the comments is asking, speaking of expensive, what are your thoughts on the differences in pricing between therapy and coaching?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know the pricing and coaching, because everything I've seen from you is they don't really see people individually like I do with clients. Like, I see a set number of clients a week. They're either weekly, every other week, monthly, on some kind of system.
I
But
would say on average, these coaches are charging like at minimum $2,000 a month, which in like a very high touch program, you would get 1 call a week. But
yeah,
in many cases, it's like 1 call every other week for $2,000.
man, I am in the wrong industry.
That's why there's so many millionaires, Tom.
But just
Here we
because you
go.
charge
Venus is
it,
saying some
go
coaches
ahead.
charge $150 per hour, up to $400 or $500 per session.
Yeah, this goes to tell you there need to be like set standards. Like in therapy, it's like this is the fee. Like this, not this range of like things. It's like this is what we charge. Like in our office, for me and Jill, since we're the most experienced, we charge $200 an hour. That's our rate. And if I see couples, I see couples for 90 minutes because I need more time with them because there's just too much going on. So that's $300 for an hour and a half, which actually is the best deal mathematically when people realize, because the therapy hour is 50 minutes, not actually 60 minutes. But we charge that and are probably on the higher end for your master's level therapist, your run of the mill therapist, I guess in Texas at least. Most are around 150 to 175 an hour, and younger, more inexperienced people will charge 100 to 120 an hour or so. But most therapists aren't going to do packages and things. Now, I take 10 to 15% of, at least, of my practice, and I see them for zero. I see them free. I've done it since I started doing this. I believe in it.
Oh, okay.
So if I see 25 people in a week, the average you're going to see, if you look at my hours, is 2.5 of those hours are going to be people that don't pay. And, maybe 4 hours this week. Lately, it's been a lot more, but I do it on a case by case basis. So I do a lot slots for that. It's just that I want it to be for people who really want to do the work and aren't just like looking for something easy. And so I believe in our field and giving back and doing things. And so I still have people who pay me $75 a session, because when they come into me, I don't change their rate as time goes on. I keep them.
I see.
I
Good
mean,
for you. That's
I
awesome.
want people to not feel like they are always being taken advantage of. And there is something in our field that's about integrity and being able to we do therapy because we love doing therapy. We love what we do. I love people and helping people's lives change. I don't do it just to be able to make money, or I would charge, um, whatever I could charge to get whatever I could out of the people I see. And I just don't do that. But that's what I worry about with coaching, is they charge based on what they think they can get.
And a lot of them charge based on their own income goals versus the actual value of the service. I mean, I've shared that a lot in a lot of my content, but for those of you that are watching from Tom's channel, it's like, how much money do I want to make in the year? How many weeks of the year do I want to work? How many hours in the week do I want to work? And therefore, how many clients would I have to take to get that many hours? And then that's how they do the calculation.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, but what is your experience? What are your credentials?
Mm-hmm.
The math is not adding up.
I know. That's why, in good therapy, you're going to find somebody who you see is really present, available, they understand you, and you don't feel like you're there being taken advantage of, or you're uncomfortable And if you get in a situation where it's like, yeah, it'd be really great if you take this course I'm giving that's $5,000 or whatever, and you feel uncomfortable at all, that's something you need to stay away from. That's why I said ask other people.
100%. Yeah, always
But
getting
I don't know, do coaches see
external
people
perspective.
individually like we do?
Yeah, so it depends on the coach.
Okay.
Like when I worked with a coach, I've done it where like I was working with a coach one-on-one, or there were like group options as well. So it really just depends. Essentially, what's kind of perpetuated in the coaching industry is like you start out as a one-on-one practitioner, you get, you know, your what's the word, hands dirty, feet wet, whatever it is, in the industry through working directly one-on-one with clients. Once you have a pretty good feel for that, then you start like a group program, a mastermind, because then you can see more clients for a lower price tag, but you end up making more money because you're obviously your volume's higher. And then from there, usually they transition into like a membership program, or
Okay.
then like charging these absurd prices for their one-on-one. So it's kind of like this like ladder of how it works. So here, Phoenix is saying some coaches offer one-on-one sessions as a bonus to buying their big $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 courses as an incentive. So, and to quickly answer Zachary's question, what are the qualifications for a life coach or certifications? Technically, there are none. There are certification programs out there, but the problem, in my opinion, with the coaching industry is that anyone could start a certification program. I could go on Udemy tomorrow, put together a course and call it, you know, the Danielle Ryan Life Coach School, and you could all pay me $20 and get your certificate. So you're a certified life coach, but it's not accredited. There's no governing body. There are things like the ICF that exist that try to serve as that sort of governing body, but they have no pull when it comes to actually enforcing what these coaches say or do. So long story short, there's no official certification, but there are many certification options available to people if they're interested. Like when I was a life coach, I paid $8.99 for a course on Udemy, and I got a little, you know, badge that I could put on my website. And
that's what can look good, like certified by this or that, and certified in this special training, or
exactly. And again, if we come back to our original conversation at the beginning with like the trauma piece, is a lot of these coaches will call themselves, you know, trauma informed life coach. But again, they did like a weekend long course in what trauma informed is. That does not mean they're certified to actually help people work through trauma, but the lack of understanding makes it very, very difficult, I think, for people to understand their boundaries.
I encourage people to look into EMDR when it comes to trauma, because a lot of people might not know about it, but it's and only therapists are going to get trained in this, but it's a very specialized training, been around since the 80s and was used on war veterans for PTSD. And I use it with athletes who are overcoming injury or peak performance. I use it with people who have been through car accidents or held up at gunpoint. And I use it for all kinds of anxiety and depression and addiction. Also, it's been used for. But look at what can help rather than people who say they are trauma informed, because trauma informed could be reading a book and learning about it. And that's not okay.
Exactly.
I mean, in our field, Danielle, as master's level therapists, which we are, you know, you have to go through 3,000 hours of field experience underneath a supervisor before you ever get your full license to actually do what we do. So that's about 2 to 3 years of seeing clients underneath somebody else before you're just free to go do what you want. And and the supervisor has to sign off that you're like capable of doing this. And so there's just so many more regulations, and life coaching worries me so much because it's such a cool, it's a great thing potentially. Like it can be so neat to have people be able to help other people in specialized areas, but just know the limits of what you can do.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of the key piece that's missing at
Remember when
this
you were talking
point.
about eating disorders? And my wife does a lot with women. She's done a lot with eating disorders. She's very well trained in this. And we have a friend who is a nutritionist, and she's up in Dallas. And we use people like that as resources to say, if I'm going to treat you an eating disorder, I'm going to bring a team on, and we're going to make sure that everybody does their part, because I can't do this. I'm not the only one. I just can't take somebody on who is struggling with anorexia and say, we got this. We're going to do this, because I do not trust that myself. I'm going to bring the people in I need. So that's what I want people to understand more, that just because they're a therapist or just because they're a coach doesn't mean they know everything about everything.
So someone's asking, Tom, does this mean you don't ask people to max out their credit cards in order to pay for their therapy?
Right.
So for
Yeah.
those of you that don't know, in the coaching industry, it's very common to be encouraged to like go into debt to pay for your coaching. Like, in order to be successful, you have to invest in yourself, and doing the scary thing is going to be what propels you into this great future. So,
Maybe it's because I'm older, and maybe it's because I'm softer. I don't know. I had a college student recently who's trying to get his way through college and doing the best he can. And he was telling me he didn't have his car to get to class. He had to have his roommates try to find rides to get to class this semester because his parents couldn't afford the insurance. They're trying to pay for him to go to school, but they couldn't afford insurance. So he's out of a car. And so I told him at that point, I said, that's it. You're not paying any more for this. Your parents aren't paying any more for this. And you'd be amazed how much it touches people to see, I want to help you. Like, I am not here to just take. And so if I see somebody who is burdened with something, I want to be able to help them. I'm blessed. I have a life. My kids have grown. I've worked hard to do what I do. And you need to find people in your life that look out for your best interest, not their best interest.
100%. I absolutely agree. And I think that's the biggest red flag that I see across the industry, whether it's life coaching, spiritual coaching, business coaching, is it's always me, my great life. This is so awesome. I make so much money, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but what about your clients? Where are your clients? What are your clients doing? How are you actually helping them? And that's always the question that I have for these people.
When you look back and see 6 months from now, a year from now, are your clients, if you went and looked at them, are they better? Like, did you help them at all in life,
Yeah, it's absolutely painful. Okay, if you're up for it, we can go ahead and react to a couple more videos.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can get into a few more questions. I still have a couple here on the list that we didn't quite get to, but
Sure.
I'd be interested to hear your take on some of this stuff. So
Yeah.
What's a scam that's become so normalized that we don't even realize it's a scam anymore?
Most mental illness is merely a symptom of unhealed trauma or a dysregulated nervous system. I am a trauma and somatic trained practitioner. So trauma can be defined as any event that is too overwhelming for your nervous system to cope with. And by overwhelming, I mean any event that is too much, too fast, too soon, like abuse, assault, bullying, war, sudden loss, or an accident. Or it could be any event that's not enough or too little, like neglect, abandonment, oppression, or poverty. Now, when you experience these traumas, especially chronically over time, and especially in childhood when your nervous system and brain are still developing, your nervous system can often get stuck in these survival states of fight, flight, or freeze. And that's what we call a dysregulated nervous system. And a dysregulated nervous system causes mental health symptoms such as anxiety, depression, insomnia, poor memory, or poor attention.
what are your thoughts?
So well, first of all, she's highlighting points that are accurate. So she's highlighting points in there that actually are about the nervous system and are about trauma. What she's missing is these traumas create, like I said earlier, core beliefs, core memories in your brain that tell you, because of this experience, I am now not safe, not good enough. So she's I feel like what she's saying is trauma is easier to deal with than you think, not that big a deal, and not that permanent. And what I'm going to say is, especially earlier in life, it's worse. The longer you go without healing trauma, the more impact it has on your life because you have more experiences and relationships to go through it. So she's highlighting some accurate points of the nervous system and what trauma does to dysregulate things. And that's true. We get dysregulated. There's fight, flight, or freeze. We've already talked about that. But the challenge there is that because of the traumatic experience, it tells my brain this is now a new fact about myself in a negative way. Therefore, I need to always watch out, be careful, expect the worst, know that it's not going to work out. And we repeat these things over and over. And so you have to heal the negative core belief in your head, not just get you to relax. I feel like I was missing the part 2 there of like, what do we do with that? Like, I don't know what she was saying about what you do because of that. Anxiety, depression, stress all come from different traumas. Like, that's an obvious thing. Because you went through something really traumatic, you are going to have more anxiety or propensity to depression. But I was curious where she was going with it.
And I think for me too, the piece that piqued my interest is her initial blanket statement that like all mental illness can be tied to trauma, which I don't think is accurate. Again, I'm
That's
not the
not
professional
accurate. Yeah.
here, but if I have
Mhm.
bipolar disorder, I don't necessarily have that
Right.
because I went through something traumatic,
You're
right?
exactly right. Mhm.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just again,
Addiction, very similar. You know, the propensity to addiction, just because you grow up with an alcoholic or a drug addict parent doesn't mean, honestly, you went through trauma. There's plenty of very kind, loving people who are addicts, and they're not crazy drunks, and they're not, horrible people. And yeah, they might not have always been able to be there for their children, but there weren't these specific traumas that happened. Yes, you are 100% right.
and you can have, siblings that grew up in the same household experience the same things, and then one ends up
So
with an
right.
addiction and one doesn't, right? It's like
You are
there's
so
so
right.
many factors at play.
That's the brain, though. I've told people you can be in a car accident, 2 people, and have a really bad car accident, but be okay. One person can come out and say, "Oh my gosh, I am literally never getting in a car again. That was the worst experience ever." And the other one could say, "I am so grateful. Like, I feel so safe. Like, that car protected me, and I feel like okay." And they're ready to get back in the car the next day. So you're right.
And again, I think this speaks to this idea. So that particular individual we watched identifies as like a trauma coach or a trauma informed coach. So again, maybe she read a book, maybe she took a 2-day course, whatever it is. It's not the equivalent of having years and years of training in trauma to actually help people work through that.
She learned the buzzwords, but what would she say is the treatment for it? Just don't believe that it's that big a deal?
It's the mindset.
Like, so if everything, even if it's true that she said everything comes from trauma, what do you do about the traumas? I don't know what she ended up saying of what you do about it if she's a trauma type coach.
Exactly. Definitely should be referred to therapy. Is that what she's going to do?
No.
I'm going to guess no.
But you're right, that mindset thing, right?
Always. Okay, let's see what else we have here. I'm just picking at random, so you get what you get and you don't get upset. Okay.
I just got off of a live on Instagram talking about this, and I figured I'd share it here with you guys because it's really good information. So here are the top 5 things that are keeping you from radically transforming your life. Number 1, you do not have a clear intention of your self-concept or of what you actually want to physically experience in your physical life experience. Like, get clear on who you are. Get clear on what you want to be, on what you want to experience. Get super laser focused on it. That's number 1. If you are just flitty-flatting around and you have no idea what you actually want, that's your number 1 goal right now, is to figure it out. It doesn't have to be long-term. It doesn't have to be 50 years ahead. It can literally just be the next couple months, in the next 30 days. What is your intention and who are you? What's your self-concept like? Number 2, this keeps you from radical transformation, is you want a quick fix. If you want a quick fix, it's not going to help you. Yes, you're on TikTok and you're going from video to video to video and you're searching for that answer. You're searching for the thing that's going to change your life, but it's not, no video is going to change your life. No one little thing is going to change your life today unless you actually put in the time, unless you actually invest. Quick fixes never work. Okay. Number 3, you give up too quickly. You give up too quickly. It takes 66 days for you to change.
30.
On average, 66 days. That's why every coaching client that I have, I immerse them for at least 8 weeks, because I want to make sure at the end of the time they're seeing that result. They're saying to me, Shannon, I will never go back. You might have implemented some sort of coach in the past, or a mastermind, or a course, or something like that, and you've started it, and then you've gone for a couple weeks, and then you've given up, and you've ended up either where you started, or sometimes, which is what I've seen with a lot of people, they end up worse off because they're disappointed in themselves because they didn't follow through on what they said they were going to do. So you've got to put in the effort and the time, and understand that it's just like the gym. You don't go in and walk out a bodybuilder. You have to put in the time. You have to show the freak up. Okay? Number 4, you aren't investing in yourself. You're either not investing the money, you're not investing the time, you're not investing the focus. Think about what that means. If you think you're worth it, you're going to invest. Number 5, share your goals with your crew, the crew that actually are cheering you on, the people that actually want you to succeed. You know, the ones that don't share them with them. Share them with the people who are going to actually be cheering you on, because their manifesting juju is going to rub off on you, and they're going to be cheering you on and celebrating your wins with you. I did it.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, that was really, I couldn't tell where she was going. She was flattering around and just had a cup in her hand at one point, and was just, it's like I see people, and it's like she's watching herself give this talk, and she's just entertained by her own self. And I'm thinking, how do people know where to go or what to do the next 30 days? Or how did 66 days come out? And she had all these different deadlines, and then you hear investing and manifesting, and you start hearing these buzzwords that I guess it's supposed to hype people up to make them feel like she is who, like, I guess if I watch it, I'm supposed to, wow, I want to follow this person. She's awesome. Like, I want to have what she has. And I think I worry in today's world, Danielle, about social media, because who we present is by far what too many people think is real. Like, they see people like that and they think that's real. She really is that. She really does have it together. She really does know what she's doing. That's not always the case. I don't know what's going on with them, but you know what? A lot of people do a lot on social media, and not much comes from it. It's just a big picture. And I think a lot of people miss that boat.
100%. And I'm so glad you brought that point up, because one piece that I always try to get across is this idea that we sort of live in this day and age now where the legitimacy in what you have to say is based on how many followers you have. So I can show up on TikTok and I can say, I'm a certified life coach. Here are the 5 things you need to do to change your life. And if I say it with enough conviction, in a way that's convincing or sounds convincing enough, people are going to believe whatever I say as fact. Again, it takes 66 days to change your life. I just made that number up, but if I say it confidently enough, you're going to believe that it's true. And then you're going to go tell your wife, you know, I saw a video on the internet today. Did you know it only takes 66 days to change your life? And that's how this stuff continues to get perpetuated, because it's like the most confident person that speaks clearly enough and is charming enough to convince you that what they're saying is true is going to be the one whose message continues to get spread.
So much of this coaching stuff is, if you're not where I'm telling you should be at the end of this, it's on you. It's not me. I'm the one who's telling you where you need to get in 66 days. And I feel like you get to the end of the 66 days and they'd be like, hey, you must not have invested or had the right intention or manifested the way you need to. So you might need another 66 days.
Oh exactly. Gosh. It's always this like victim blaming, gaslighting. Oh, you didn't get what you wanted. That's your fault, not mine. I'll take my money. Have a nice day.
It's like I tell people in therapy, you know, when they come in the first time to see me, I say, okay, tell me about your life and what would bring you here. Tell me where you want to be that you're not, like what you want your life to be that you're not, that it's not. And let me tell you what I'm hearing and what I think might be able to happen, because I feel like I am in a way like Google Maps. And so you're right here. You want to be here. I will show you what I think. This is only my plan. My treatment plan is what we call it. But here's my treatment plan. I think we weave this way, this route go, not just go straight to it, but we're going to have to go around these issues and do that. And I pave a map for them to say, here's the course of treatment I would do. And the way that I look at it with clients is I'm always 4 weeks ahead of you. So I try to see, if I'm seeing Danielle, I'm looking 4 weeks from now to see where I think you can be based on the amount of work you're doing and the potential you have. And then I keep pushing that goal out because I don't ever want to just settle. But you always know, like, I inform people where I think they should be and what they should do. The challenge I have in life coaching is it's like they tell people, you should be having a better life. And if you're not, then you're not trying hard enough, you're not invested enough, you haven't given enough, or you haven't had the right mindset. And there's a lot of people, Danielle, that have the right mindset or want to have a better life, and they just don't know how to make tomorrow better. Forget 6 weeks from now.
Exactly. And I think this comes up too often in my video comment section, is the idea of like, okay, so you're telling me that the solution to my problem is to just think more positively. If I'm someone who suffers from depression, anxiety, that's not something I just wake up and actively choose to deal with, right? I can't just turn it off. So it's this oversimplification of, if you're facing this problem, the solution is, you know, these 3 steps, when that's not the reality, because there's so many complexities and other moving parts that come to contributing to that problem and
Right.
to the solution to that problem, right? So it's really, it really sets people up for failure, I think, which is unfortunate. I actually think, I don't know which one of these videos. One of them is very much, it might be this one, along these same lines, kind of this idea of just believe your way to feeling better about yourself. That's the secret, folks.
You may recognize me as the girl that's gone viral multiple times for talking about self-sabotage. And I'm here to tell you that the best way to support yourself in this work is through EFT tapping. This is because EFT tapping completely clears out and rewires the mind-body connection. This allows you to expand past your upper limit problem, or this unconscious internal threshold of what you believe yourself to be deserving of, which allows you to transcend what previously limited you and access new levels of your life. I just added a $5 releasing self-sabotage EFT tapping video to the vault. There she is. And then of course we have a full library of videos for you to explore. Go click the link in my profile to start your journey to expansion and healing today.
Okay, so that's not the one I thought it was, but I am curious to hear your thoughts on this.
I just, all those words, when you said the word salad, it's like I'm hearing all these words that are supposed to make me feel so much better. Like it makes me just want to go right click. Okay, great. EFT tapping. Let's do that. I don't understand, and I want people to be empowered that just getting something quick like this is not going to typically change life, because you're going to go out and you're going to see new people and you're going to have experiences that, you know, re-trigger or put you right back in the same uncomfortable spot. And you're going to struggle because it's not about finding the quick fix that's going to make you all of a sudden feel better. I don't know where she's going with that. I mean, other than a $5 thing.
Well, and if you can go viral and convince enough people to buy your $5 product, then you're sitting on 20 grand.
Yeah.
And I thought that that was an interesting piece that she brought up. The first thing she said was like, you might recognize me from my viral videos. And it's like, okay, but does virality equal credentials now? Because like, what are your qualifications to be giving this advice?
Right.
But again, we live in a time where that's all it takes sometimes.
Well, and we want to get fixed real quick. And I really, in that other comment of that quick fix thing, you know, 66 days is quick fix too. Like you have to understand this is about, you know, long lasting change in people's lives. And that doesn't mean you need tons of therapy, honestly. It really doesn't. It means you need insight and awareness to what your real issues are. And a lot of these people you're putting on these videos, they don't have the insight to understand, you know, there's real people with real problems, and you're playing with people's emotions and people who have been through a lot. And if they're going to buy into what you're saying, then they're just going to hit a dead end, because I don't think this lady has anything beyond what she was just talking about. It's going to be the same message. I feel like you're going to hear the same message from these people over and over again, no matter how many times you talk to them.
Exactly. And it's this, so if we think of like the EFT sequence, They just swap out the words, but it has the same intention every time. From what I've seen anyway.
Right.
Again, in my opinion, in my observation, allegedly. I don't know who any of these people are. I don't even know their names. I literally just like found the videos and downloaded them. So don't come for me.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another goodie, I'm sure. I don't even think I watched this one in full, so it should be interesting.
What is a massively underrated ability that humans have? I'll go first. We can change anything in our lives when we decide to stop resisting things the way they are. Let me explain. This is literally what would happen if you decided to completely accept yourself and your life as it is right now. No more aspiring for more, no forceful changing. You accept that everything will stay the same until you die. First, you could probably feel it already. Your ego would freak out. Once your ego calms down, though, that's when you would sit there for a second with like this smug smile on your face, because the part of you that we were fighting with won the battle. A second later, you would realize that actually, as long as you're alive, you might as well go after what you want just because you want it. And then 100% of you would be on board. Not 50% of you and dragging your other half. 100% of you would be on board to go get the thing you want just because you want it. That is the magic of non-resistance.
I'm not even sure what the point of that video was.
Well, I think what I heard her say was you have to just accept that life sucks. It is what it, I mean, it just is what it is, and don't expect anything out of it. And then it'll make you tomorrow wake up and go after every goal you've ever imagined, and you'll just go for it. Makes
Suck
no
it up,
sense.
Buttercup.
It's like, just accept that nothing is gonna come out of life. And then from that, you're going to all of a sudden have the drive and desire to go get everything you've ever wanted. I do not understand the math.
Again, I think this comes from the like pure lack of understanding that they have. So then it's just like A equals B. Let's oversimplify everything. And the reason as to why everything is the way it is, the explanation is always very, very basic, when the reality is that's never the case. But they don't have the knowledge to know that what they're sharing is not the whole story.
I mean, I tell people all the time, it's important to understand how daily bread, I believe it's my philosophy in life, being grateful for the daily bread, which is not just food, it's the money, it's the relationships, it's the experiences I have in life. Be grateful for what I have, just like a bird that, doesn't have a fridge and stocks up food. They just eat day to day. Be grateful for what we have every day and do our best to contribute. I saw this great thing, Shia LaBeouf, the actor, he was doing this interview and he said, I used to have a goal of wanting to be happy, he said, and I stopped doing that. Now I want to be useful. And he said, my wife doesn't need me to be happy. She needs me to be useful, to be available, to be present, to be in life and participating in it. He said, so when I started changing that mentality, because he's been through a lot of rehab, a lot of therapy, to understand this isn't about just being happy. This is about being useful in the world and using what we have inside us to help other people, to connect with other people, and to really do the best we can every single day, no matter the situation, and not just try to just get more. And I feel like a lot of these videos are talking about you can get more, you can have more, you can accumulate, you can be on top, it's like, is that really the answer?
And you're always encouraged to continue to not even work to achieve more or to get more things, but to be better, do better, work harder, have more capacity. It's like, when do I get to take a break? I just want to chill,
I know. Shout out to Rage here in the comments. He was talking about Rod Wave. I don't know if any of your audience knows Rod Wave, who's a rapper, and he's one of my favorites. And he just put a song out, and he actually posted us today, my reaction on his Instagram page.
No way.
Which is phenomenal. And I'm just on cloud nine. Nick and I are loving it as we speak. But he did this song on basically the breakup of his relationship, and he has kids, and he never thought he'd see this day. He doesn't want them to know what it's like to be from a broken home, probably because he knows. And he said, I've got the one line was, he said, I got this Rolls Royce truck, which I didn't even know existed, a Rolls Royce truck. And he said, don't even remember when I last drove it. Kind of like, I have all this stuff and it doesn't even matter. So we spend so much time trying to accumulate instead of realizing, what's most important is whether we're good people and whether we're contributing to society and whether we're trying to be the best, for me, husband, father, friend, therapist that I can be, so that I give something to the world instead of just take. And there's just too much take in all these videos.
Exactly. And I think a lot of that comes from this, like an ego place, this desire to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like perceived, I guess, as this, great thought leader, like the Tony Robbins and Gabby Bernsteins of the world. There's a piece of ego associated with it, of like wanting to be the person that changes the world. And so I think, at least in my experience, I think that's where a lot of this like constant push and desire to be better, do more comes from. But I don't know.
You know what? That's a good question, because what makes us better? And this is what I look at in therapy. In a lot of this, what we're watching today, a lot of what makes you better is how many views you got, how many subscribers you have, how many packages you've sold, how much attention you get. That's really not what makes us better. And that, having had a viral video and have great content out, you've experienced the good, the bad, the struggle, the day-to-day of grinding videos. And you might think a video is awesome and it gets like, we do it, and it's like, how did that not get any views? And then we do one and it's like, how the heck did that get a lot of views? I don't understand.
Exactly. Every time.
Your self-esteem, especially if you do any kind of social media, whether we like it or not, it is tied. It's not solely to that. We ground ourselves here, but I'm telling you, it's very easy to get sucked into, I'm good if I get more, have more. And you see it, you live in that day to day.
100%. And it's just like, it's a matter of really just reminding yourself of like, okay, what's actually important to me? What are the things that I actually value? And is this thing that I'm getting, stressed about, focusing all my attention on, is it actually contributing to like the greater picture of what I'm trying to accomplish here? Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that learning how to kind of detach yourself from some of those pieces is really important. But again, a lot of these people, they don't do that. It's like, you are your success and your happiness is reliant on your ability to show up and be successful.
Yep.
Toxic. Yeah. Okay, I have one last video that we can watch, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
If you are a people pleaser, listen up. You are attracting more scarcity into your life. That's because pleasers have a deep desire to be liked, loved, and appreciated. And this lack of self-love that you're looking for externally will just never feel enough. And lack attracts more lack. So people pleasing from this scarce lack energy creates more lack. And this ripples into relationships, money, career, friendships, health, everything. Which then only makes you feel more lack, and then this vicious cycle continues. So if you want to attract more abundance and become a better manifester, you have to stop people pleasing.
What?
What do you do instead? What she's saying the answer is, if you're not going to people please, are you just going to go like take advantage of people or not care, how you treat anybody else? Or
she's saying the quiet part out loud, Tom. Sell your morals and charge everyone $10,000, and that's the key to being successful and rich.
Yeah. What was the what did she say about the scarce space or the scarce something?
Scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Okay. So scarcity, which I've talked about with people, especially in the mental health field, like with our practice, like we don't ever feel like there's not enough fish in the sea. Like, and a lot of therapists like to just kind of gather up and keep for themselves. I do agree with abundance mindset of there's plenty out there. The challenge of what I just heard was, if you're a people pleaser, you're bad. Well, I feel like I'm a people pleaser. Like, if you look at me on the Enneagram, I think I'm a 9, man. I think I'm a chameleon, and I kind of mold to people, and I want people to be happy. It's what I do for a living, and I don't sacrifice myself for it, but I think it's kind of dangerous to tell people just stop people pleasing if you're a people pleaser. Like, you might have to learn boundaries around how much you people please, but when I start hearing words of what was it? Manifesting. Whenever I'm hearing the manifesting,
Literally, I was like listening along, and then as soon as she said that's your key to manifesting, I was like, okay, I know where this is going. I think Hillary's right. So Hillary's saying the best part of this video is that she wants people to comment, so what do I do? And the answer will be hire me.
Is that true though? Is that really the goal?
Yeah, so this individual's profile, I took a quick scroll through, and she sells different coaching packages. So my assumption is all of her content sort of filters people into that.
I love that top comment there. It says, "Came here for Rod, stayed for the therapy." My friends are so funny.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
But I think, there are so many people I talk to that I might sit even on the phone, and after I talk to them for about 10 minutes, I'm like, I don't know that I would come in and see me right now. Like, what I'm hearing is not therapy material. Or I'll do an intake session. I always do consultations first, like a one-time sit down. Like, if I'm not sure, let me hear your story about your child or your marriage or your life. And then at the end, a lot of times I'll tell them, I wouldn't do anything right now. I mean, you could bring your child to therapy, or you could come in for this treatment, but I'd probably wait a few months and see. And people are so grateful that, like, wow, I thought I was going to come in and have to sign up for
Give me your money.
It's like, no, you get to decide. And if you don't like it, it's okay. I've been fired many times by clients just not wanting to come back. It's okay. That's the beauty of it. I've had 5, 6, 7 therapists myself. Like, there are some I don't like, or I feel like I've outgrown, but you shouldn't feel like you find a life coach that tells you you need to have the right mindset, or you're not going to be successful, or the only way you're going to make it is to have this particular mindset. No, you need skill, you need ability, you need a whole lot of luck, you need timing, you need to be around the right people. Like, there's so many things that make success happen. But what they're saying is mindset makes it all happen.
Exactly.
And I totally disagree with that. And I'm a mindset guy. Like, I love positive mindset and hopefulness and looking forward. Ask anybody that knows me. But man, I do not bank on that as my sole purpose.
Exactly. And I think that that's really the disconnect. And I speak to this from experience, because when I was in that position where I was coaching people and, drinking the Kool-Aid, I was very much like, why don't you just, work on your mindset and believe in yourself and face your fears and you'll be successful. And it's like, Danielle, there's this thing, it's called reality. You should come back to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's not going to cut it. And I see that thing there that says, do you think there's an ethical life coach? Yes. I know one here in Houston who is incredible, and she knows when to draw the line and say, I need to send this to somebody else, or this is out of my league, or she knows when she actually can help and has the talent and ability to do it. So there are ethical life coaches, absolutely, but you've got to ask the right questions. Do not get in front of a life coach and think, or a therapist, even me, don't get in front of them and say, well, I don't want to upset them, or no, ask them hard questions, honestly, because you don't want to feel like you're just having to follow them like sheep.
Exactly. And I mean, it's like with anything, use your critical thinking skills to determine if the red flags are going off, the spidey senses are tingling. Ask someone else for their thoughts, or, take some time to question it. Because
But that's kind of cool. What I've heard you say, Danielle, is you have this group of people, obviously friends or people. You do 2 things really well. You do a lot of things really well, but 2 things really well is, one, taking time for yourself and taking days to just really get your mind right and be in the right state of mind. And then second, you're around people that ground you. You're around people that, you've talked about people in the mental health field, and people that you can trust to kind of be, normal and and not so out there and not so image focused, etc. So I think that's something people can really learn from, as and your videos do that very well, of just, I'm just a basic person. Like, I'm just communicating what I've been through, what I'm learning, because you are actively learning. Like, that's what I think more life coaches need to do, is actively get trained, like get skilled in something. Don't just read a book or take a course and say, now I've got it. Like, really learn this. Uh, but I think you do that really well in those videos, is showing people, there's really, and all the stuff you do, Danielle, when you talk about starting a YouTube channel or running your life, is very simple. Have a list, have a structure, have a routine, set reasonable goals and expectations, and repeat, repeat, repeat. And it's not so much about, hey, I'm going to help you be successful by the end of this month.
Exactly. And I think that this was actually something that I thought of as we were watching one of these videos. I think the girl that was sitting up, standing down, jumping around. In her video, she made a point of like, surround yourself with people who are going to support you to get you to where you are. And while I don't disagree with that, I do think it's important to have a support system, have people that you can ask questions and get that feedback from. There's also an air of caution, I think, that needs to be exercised, especially in the coaching space specifically, wherein you want to be sure that you're not entering an echo chamber. Because all too often what we see, again, I've done videos where I discuss the similarities between coaching, MLMs, cults, and a lot of the tactics that are used in each of these sort of entities. And one of them is this idea where we all think the same things. We all believe the same things. Anyone who challenges our thoughts is wrong. They're doing it for malicious reasons, etc. And so I really just encourage people that regardless of what you're pursuing, whether it's coaching, whether you want to start a YouTube channel, you have some other goal that you're trying to achieve. Yes, you can build a network of people who are also working towards similar things, but it's also very important to have the people in your life who aren't, so that they can provide that sort of neutral feedback that we've talked about a lot today, numerous different times. But I just kind of wanted to point that out, because there is a lot of danger associated with only surrounding yourself with the yes men.
Yes, I agree, because then we're just going to want to hear something. And it's like Dre Studios here said, my goal is to be a life coach. I want to help people. I do. Please don't mistake me. I do believe in life coaching. And I think it's a great way when people either don't want to go through years of schooling, right, that it takes, of getting a degree and then a graduate degree and then all the training. And it is a less expensive, so a more affordable way to still help people. I just want people to do it the right way and have the right mentoring, the right training behind it. So I do think life coaching can be a super valuable thing for people who can't go through the whole gamut of grad school and get licensed, or, do all that.
Yeah, but I would be careful. Just my word of caution.
Well, it's why you listen to people like Danielle and say, okay, what makes a good life coach? Like, what is it that does that? And so me knowing the ones I do, I look to them, like, and I see what they do on a daily basis, and they don't sell these packages and these things that go on. They work individually. So
yeah, there's a lot out there. But if you ever have questions, DM me on Instagram and I can try my best to help you. That's
absolutely. Your investment is not in getting something from these people. It's in sharing, like it's in giving something to people. So that's the best way to do it, is use Danielle, who's got this platform, to be able to share it. It's like if somebody wanted to know about therapy, I would tell you, here's the things to ask and here's the things to look out for. Like I said, if you call somebody and say, I just need a few minutes on the phone, and they say, no, you got to set up an appointment. Or they get your credit card before you actually show up to the first appointment, even in therapy. Don't do it. It just doesn't happen that way. So there's some do's and don'ts. And I think you'd be good at showing people that, because mentoring to me is huge. Like finding people who are the type of person or have the experience that I want to have, I've always learned to cling to and stay close to and be led and taught by. So that to me is very valuable. And I think good quality people stick together. I think highly skilled people stick together. There's a quote from Rick Warren, who was at Saddleback Church out in I guess Utah or something. He wrote Purpose Driven Life a long time ago. He had this quote I'll never forget where he said, leaders create more leaders. Wannabes just create more followers. And I listen to that to this day, that if you're a real leader, you're going to create more leaders. And if you're just a wannabe, you're going to just pile the followers around you that just want to just cling to you.
Exactly. And who are going to blow smoke up your butt and make you just continue to perpetuate the same message over and over again.
Yeah. Do you
me
think
as everyone in my YouTube comment section is cheering me on, and I'm like, yeah, let's go.
But do you think there is such a thing as ethical life coaching?
I do. And I think that sometimes it's not really communicated in my content. And that's kind of why I always joke that I'm just this like hater troll on the internet. I think there's space for valuable like coaching or mentorship relationships. I just think that the industry of coaching specifically has become so watered down with these coaches who coach coaches to coach coaches that the value of a traditional, I guess you could call it, or like beneficial coaching relationship is a lot harder to navigate. And so I don't know, I always kind of encourage people, rather than seeking out a life coach specifically, maybe think about what your goals are that you're trying to accomplish, and then seek out mentorship through people who have that same interest. So again, if I wanted to start a YouTube channel as an example, and I wanted someone who was going to coach me in the area of YouTube, I would maybe join, online communities where people are talking about that kind of thing, and build relationships the old-fashioned way through networking and that kind of thing, in order to find that sort of mentorship that I'm looking for, versus just going on Google and typing, YouTube coach, because that's when you're more likely to get those people that are just trying to sell you on the dream, right?
I agree.
Jackie's asking what my platform is. So I'm here on YouTube, I'm on Instagram and TikTok. It's Danielle Ryan across all platforms. But if you're trying to get a hold of me, you can try to email me, but as Tom knows, I sometimes take multiple weeks to get back to you. So Instagram's the easiest way to reach me.
I 100% agree with that.
I get like 25 emails an hour, and I'm just like, I cannot keep up with it.
Too much. But you do, from what I've noticed, you do take personal clients to work with. So that could help people.
Yeah. So no coaching here though. But if you need help with a business, I'm your girl.
So it is focused on business, and people want to start it up. And is it only in Canada, or will you do it anywhere?
No, I've had clients in the States, in the UK. It's really mostly the like social media strategy behind business. So it's not really location dependent. But if that's kind of the thing people are looking for help with, understanding how to, appeal to people on social media, then I can definitely share some tips there. And that's mostly on TikTok. That's the kind of content I share. It's obviously all completely free. So if you're interested in the realm of entrepreneurship, that's the space to get that side of me. But for YouTube, I'm here for the snark. So.
And you do go live now, right? Regularly?
Yeah. So I go live here on YouTube every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And then sporadically throughout the week. I think I'm going live tomorrow night with my friend DC. So should be fun. I know you seem to be live all the time. I swear every time I open YouTube, you're always live now. And I'm like, I don't know. I never noticed this before.
We have different live streams we do, and it's typically a couple times a week. Nick's been gracious at not making me do it too much, because I have work and stuff that I'm coming home to, and a wife that I want to go see. So he's been really good at that. So it probably averages a couple times a week, and then we post videos every single day. But it can be a lot, because sometimes we have special live streams. We have it tomorrow. Every Friday we have a new music. All the new music that comes out typically on Friday, we record that. So we do that live with people. So
much fun.
But you need I've said to Danielle two things. Number one, we need to do something like every month or every other month, something like that, sporadically, where it's like mental health hour or whatever, where we just chat about mental health questions from people when they talk about life coaching and therapy. I think it'd be kind of fun to do this over time. if people would want it. And then
Yeah.
secondly, you need a higher tier on YouTube. I've kept telling you.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments if this is something you'd be interested in seeing again. And maybe we can set it up on like a recurring basis where we just kind of chat and answer your questions. And I spam Tom with random videos from TikTok
Yes.
that make me want to
Yes.
bang my head on the wall.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly answer this one last question and then we can wrap it up here. This individual is just looking for more clarification on like what a positive mentor would look like in YouTube, because that was the example I gave. And so I'll speak from my own experience. So I am by day, when I'm not just a talking head here on YouTube, I actually do freelance content creation. So I create short form content for brands, startups, businesses, that kind of thing. They'll hire me to make the videos that they post on their social media. And so when I started doing this, I literally just had built my own TikTok platform and then was approached by brands to, you know, create content for them. And so I was just pulling prices out of my butt. I didn't know, okay, this should take me, you know, maybe 5 hours, so I'll charge X price. Yeah. What I did when I moved across the country about 1.5 years ago, and I started to connect with other people who were content creators in a similar niche. And through that, I've built some really great relationships with people who are very close friends of mine now, but I would also consider them mentors, because up until that point, I was just kind of guessing my way through it. And so through building these relationships, I now have people that I can ask these questions to. So for example, in our group chat yesterday, one of them asked me, you know, I was approached by a brand. They want me to set up their Instagram account and run it for the first 5 months. Like, how much should I charge them? And so then we were all able to kind of give our feedback. And it's like, those are the kinds of relationships where I don't really have anything to gain from that. They don't have anything to gain from that, but we're able to have this sort of open discourse and share our experience of, I did this thing, this is what I learned, this is how much I would charge, this is what I know, and kind of give each other that candid feedback and honest experience without any like incentive of, well, pay me $5,000 now to tell you this information. So, and that was just done purely through networking, through finding people that had a similar interest, that were doing the same thing as me, and building relationships with those people. And so that's kind of what I encourage people to do if there is an area of interest you're looking to pursue. And you can do that online. You don't have to meet people in real life. You can do it on Reddit, on Discord. Like, there's so many places. Here in the YouTube comment section, there's lots of options out there. So I guess that's kind of my parting advice for you. Hopefully that made sense.
Well, and also knowing, you know, follow people that you think really have it together, you know, are quality people as opposed to just salespeople.
Yeah. If they're selling like flashy promises or talking about, you know, these great big lifestyle claims, that's usually a red flag. All right. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. This has been like 2 hours. I don't know how long you scheduled.
It's been awesome. I love doing this because I love being able to talk, number one, mental health field, but I love being able to talk about, you know, what can help people's lives be better, and maybe what they can look out for, just as a, you know, they're going to run into situations where you see something online that looks really good, sounds really good, but is it really good? And understanding life coaching and mental health, I think, is a big thing. And plus, you've got a great channel with great content, and I wanted people to be able to see that, at least from my perspective, because I watch it all the time, and I think you do great stuff. So I
love it. Well, everyone who's watching from my channel, go and subscribe to Reaction Therapy.
Yes, please do. And subscribe, obviously, to Danielle. Everybody here probably already is, but
we love it. And we will definitely be back. It looks like the people in the comment section want a part 2. So we will set that up. And I really appreciate you for taking the time to come and hang out with me.
Anytime. You will see me in your comments. And if I'm in between clients on Mondays, because that's my long day, I'll pop in there very quickly also. But thank you very much, Danielle. I appreciate you having me on today. And I appreciate everybody giving reaction therapy a chance, because this whole thing is not easy. Danielle and I will tell you, this day-to-day grind of putting videos out and everything, it's hard.
It is. So honestly, it's fine. Thank you, everyone, so much. I'm going to roll the outro, and
thank you.
We appreciate you all for being here.
See you next time.